CBS News senior national security analyst, that's Fran Townsend, is a former Homeland Security advisor to President George W. Bush. She joins us from Washington this morning. Fran, good to see you.
Good morning, Gayle.
So let's go through this for a second. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Kellyanne Conway says that he has a full support of the president. By the end of the day, he's out. What does this say to you? What do you think happened behind the scenes?
Well, you know, in some ways, the White House just can't win. They get notified by the Justice Department, according to the Washington Post, that there's been this conversation and that Flynn might have misled them. Of course, if they had acted then, they might have been accused of obstructing an ongoing investigation. And so, in some ways, if you're in the White House and you get this sort of a notification, it is a no-win situation. I don't think, you know, you had the Canadian Prime Minister there yesterday. You have Bibi Netanyahu of Israel there tomorrow. They couldn't have this cloud constantly hanging over them when they're dealing with such important issues. And so at this point, with all of this in the press now, it becomes a huge distraction, and it's unfair to the president, frankly. And I don't think they had much of a choice but to let Flynn resign.
But Fran, as you mentioned, the White House was warned about this weeks ago by the FBI, and the specific concern that was relayed was that Flynn could be open to blackmail on this very issue. What's the significance of that?
Oh, look, this is a huge, it's of huge significance. But as I say, look, the fact is that the Justice Department and the FBI clearly notified the White House to let them know this was an ongoing investigation and he may have deceived them. I will tell you, it's hard to imagine that Mike Flynn would have intentionally deceived them, though. This is a guy, as you said, more than 30 years in the U.S. military, most of it in the intelligence community. He would have known that there were transcripts of this. Yeah. You have to assume that he just didn't remember all the details of the conversation, but even allowing for that, assuming the best, you know, if you're the vice president and the president, you cannot have somebody working for you, advising you that you have to question their trust and credibility. There's no room for that.
Pretty big detail not to remember.
Yeah. Fran, Democratic congressmen are now calling for a classified briefing on what happened here. I mean, from your perspective, what do you want to know at this point?
Oh, I have to assume that the members on the Hill want to read that transcript for themselves. I mean, we're reading a lot into it because we're getting reports second and third hand. But if you're on Capitol Hill and you're in an oversight role, you want to see the transcript. You want the FBI, who's actually conducting the investigation, up there briefing you.